Thanks, everyone, for joining us, the last session. Apparently, we have a lot of tired attendees after the long day today. This is going to be an interesting session because you're going to get a little bit of perspective from the development side inside AppDynamics and also the product management side. The first half is going to be going pretty deep into what we're doing on the mobile side. And I'd like to invite up Hao Liu. He's a senior software engineer. He focuses on iOS and Android agent development for AppDynamics, and he's going to take you pretty deep into what we're doing, where we're going, and what the product can do today. So thank you for joining me.
Yep. Hello, everyone. So glad you here can be here. And this is a long day, and we have an awesome topic today. And also from the keynote today, I'm not really sure if you noticed that or not. Every single thing starts with a touch. So nowadays, it's a mobile world. So let's get started. So this is a notice. Please don't share any information I talk during the session, and that will be appreciated. So this chart shows the online users by daily basis. So as you can see, the gray bar shows how many users are doing online surfing every day. So in 2014, there are 3 billion people doing online surfing. And the yellow bar shows how many people they are doing mobile online surfing. That contributes to 2/3 of the total. So that's a huge contribution. And then you can notice before 2000, there is no single mobile users out there. So now it's a mobile world. And lots of companies, they try to make their application to be mobile first. And some of them, they grew up from the mobile. Let's say Uber. There is only mobile, they do only have one mobile app, which you can call a taxi. So for Facebook, I do use Facebook every day. And when I take the subway, I just pull up my app, seeing some feeds from the timeline, and everybody does. So Facebook did a really good job, so does other companies. So we do chatting, we do map navigation, all in the map. But the problem is, you cannot say that's enough to just have a mobile app in the market. Then you call yourself as a mobile first company. It's not. So basically, it's about the quality of your mobile and also the performance of your mobile application. How to guarantee the best user experience based on your app. So here, AppDynamics is trying to make to help you make your application better. So we do have 2 mobile agents, one for Android, one for iOS. So basically, our goal is to optimize the user experience of your mobile application. So to make the definition short, so what we did is we are your mobile application IQ, and we provide insights for your applications by tracking lots of things. So next couple of slides, I'm going to walk through a couple of different stories for a fictional company I just made up. So that's called Mobile First Company. They try their best to be mobile first, and they name their company as Mobile First. Okay, so by the way, this company is an e-commerce company. So story 1. So let's say they start from a startup company. They don't have lots of money. They decide to build an in-house server to hold their services. But now they got richer and richer. They are deciding to migrate their services to AWS. So from their app version 2.0, they are going to use the new endpoints, which is from the AWS. So what their expectation is, they are expecting to see the average request time will be shorter than before. So how they compare that with our tool? So by going to the network request analyzing page AppDynamics provided, so you can see the distribution of different network requests. So basically, you can see the whole distribution of all the requests during that time span. So for application version 1.0, so the average time is around 2,000 milliseconds. So let's see what happens for application 2.0. So by specifying the filter, they got the distribution for 2.0. So what they can see is the average time decreased to 1,000 milliseconds. And you can see the distribution getting shifted to the left. The more left it can be shifted to, the better HTTP request perform is. So that's story one. They can use our tool to do the analyzing. So story two, since they released the version 2.0, so they are wondering, are there any crashes for this app, for this new version? So let us answer their questions. So from the crash dashboard, they can see all the different crashes listing on that page. That's from the dashboard. And I choose a time span for 4 hours on that single day. And there are something going wrong there. So the very top one shows there are around 460 total crashes, and the impacted users are around 300. So that's not a good signal. So what they can do is they go to the crash detail page, and we provide every possible information for you. So here, we provide the device software information, the custom logging, and also the stack trace. So with all those information, your developer can get some detail and also help them to do the troubleshooting for that crash. All right, so story three. Some people, some of their customers, they're complaining about the logging is slow. So that must be related with the logging request. So what they're trying to do is they're going to see all the network request snapshots, and then they apply the filter to see to filter out the very slow requests, and also for that specific version. Then they choose one of them. So here it shows the network request detail page. And one thing to notice is there is something called the business transaction. So business transaction is very useful. It can help you to dig through all the way from front end to the back end. So once you click that one, you get a flow map of your service and your database. So there, on the left side, it shows something going wrong for that service. Then you drill down to the next level, to the segment list view. Then you can see the stack trace for that specific request. So at the end, you can see that call takes a really long time to return back. Okay, so this is a story for the user to do the troubleshooting all the way deep down to the service end. So another story 4. Let's say they have a user, and his name is called Eric Jonathan. And that guy got some experience with the slow logging. So they want to find that out for that specific user. So, so before talking about that, I'm going to introduce the session feature we have for mobile and also browser. So have you guys ever heard about the butterfly effect? I guess lots of people knows that. So basically, butterfly effects means a single small cause can have a large effect. So why can a single cause will introduce a large trouble or a large effect? So the time contributes a lot to that. Without time, nothing can happen. So basically, the time matters. So the session idea is the same. We stitch everything together by the time order. So the session represents the whole user journey. For example, sometimes the crash happened and my manager come to me, not my current manager, my previous manager. And he came, and he came to me to say, try your best to get a repro and fix that thing. I tried my best. I spent a couple days, but I can't get a repro. I don't really know what the user journey is, and I don't really know how can they get to that bad state. So that makes me very frustrated. So with the session feature, we record every single event of that user did, and we stitch all those events together to be a session. So let's see how we can do that. So this is a session page. You can filter down the session for that single user. So here, I filtered down the session for only that user. That user is Eric Jonathan. So I was able to locate that session for him. So then, in the session detail page, let me describe the session detail page first. So the session detail page on the left side, it shows which screen did that user visit. And on the right side, it shows which event did that user triggered. So the events perspective is for that page. So as you can see, there is a very long bar for that network request. It takes more than 50 seconds. So there are definitely something going wrong there. So then we are going to use the same methodology like we did for digging through with our business transaction. Then you find that business transaction, dig deeper, you see something wrong with that service, and even deeper, you got more error information for that. Okay, so I talk about how current feature can help our customer, can help this mobile first company. So we always ask ourselves, can we do more for you guys? And they also ask us, can we do more for them? So the answer is always, yes, we can. So next is about user interaction. So iPhone is the biggest innovation in past 10 years. So what's that about? It's all about touch, and touch. Everything starts with a touch. So interaction matters. Let's say the network request crashes custom metrics. Those existing features we provided to you guys, that's about backend stuff, backend metrics in mobile. So now this thing, the user interaction, that's the front end feature. And we have to capture them. So let me give you an example that happens to myself. I like to do some travel. Let's say I want to go to Beijing to stay for a week, and I want to find some fancy hotels there. So I pull up my app, and I click shop. Then I touch the hotel button. So it takes me to the next page. That's a search page. I fill in the city name and choose the time span. Then I hit search. After a couple spinning, it takes me to the hotel list. I scroll down all the way and find a fancy hotel there. Then I choose that one. But it's not done. There are 3 more pages waiting for you. The hotel detail page, the rates page, and checkout. So you can imagine how many possible touches are there. And also, how many different user experience mutation will be, right? Even for one single user. So how about other users, the users across the world? They all will ends up with a different user experience. So when a crash happened, how can you know how to get a repro for that user? So with the user interaction, we can help you. So our goal is to answer these 2 problems. There are tons of touches could happen, and also lots of different user journeys will happen. So now we introduce the UI events provided by our agent. So who will benefit from this feature? And I guess there are a lot of people, in your company they will benefit from this. Product manager, they always wonder, does the user satisfy with our features, and do they like our app, and we want to add more features to that, or are they the satisfaction of the current feature? And for the designer, they want to know if the current user interaction flow looks correct. And for myself, of course I don't have beer, but I'm a software engineer. I care about the root cause for that crash. With the UI events, I'll be able to easily identify what interaction leads to that bad situation. So now I'm going to take you to some programming world, talking about the technical details. And this is something we are really proud of. So as we all know, we have 2 agents, one for iOS and one for Android. So first, iOS. So there is a very important concept in iOS. It's called master swizzling. Master swizzling basically means you can swap two different implementations for a single function. So what we did is we are going to replace the original function Apple provided with our own implementation. It doesn't mean we are totally changing your logic. We are going to create a wrapper around your implementation. And that wrapper we call the add-on. And for this example, we are going to replace the send event function, which is provided by Apple for capturing, for receiving all those UI interaction events. So this add-on can help you to catch those events and sending that back to our server to help you to track the user interaction. All right, so that's iOS. Very straightforward. For Android, I would like to introduce the build process of Android. So Android process starts from your code, and it goes through the Java C compiler, then the DEX compiler, then finally it got zipped into the APK file. So the APK file is a file you can deploy to the device. So what we did is we put a rewriter in between of the Java C and DEX. Java C outputs the classes file, and after that, we are looking every single outputs the Java C generated. So basically, we are watching every single line of your code, finding all those interesting places, and then we are going to inject our code into that. So for example, for the button interaction capture, button press interaction capture. We are going to look for all those buttons you declared, and also we are going to look into all the click listener you have. Then we are going to inject our code to that. Okay, so another story. So this story is about how to use this, how to use our UI events feature to do the troubleshooting. So another user called Kyle Duffy, he complained about the checkout failed. And that's the only information he told us. And he said he did tons of click on the checkout page. And that's the only information he told us. So let's use the session page to dig through. So we filter all those sessions. And by specifying the UI events is greater than 21 times. That's the number we arbitrarily made. So here in the detail page, the session detail page, you find on the UI events row, that user clicked more than 10 times. But after that, there's nothing happened. So that means the network request didn't get triggered. So the checkout process didn't even get fired. So that's a problem. So that means the developer might just forget to add the action for firing that network request. So that's a problem. So while we introduce the UI events, we also introduce the UI events with a lot of attributes with that. So here is the attributes you can get from the UI events. There are three UI events for different components. One is button, one is test field, another one is the table cell. So there is just one thing I need to mention. So the label, that means the title of that button. But why that one is not available for the test field? Because developer always use the test field as a password input. And password input is very sensitive information. That's something we are not going to report. So we spend a lot of time to do that sort of investigation. All right, so besides the UI events, I'm going to introduce another thing we did, and we are really proud of that too. It's called system events. So at this moment, you might be wondering, what is system events, right? So system events, we add one subtype into that. So we call that as connection transition. Connection transition simply means you just, let's say you walk out from your home and it got switched to cellular. Or you go down to the garage and you got no Wi-Fi or even cellular. So that's basically the transition among those states. No connection, Wi-Fi, and cellular. So why this one is important to you? Because some apps, it didn't handle the edge case well. Let's say it didn't handle the situation for handling the request while there is no connection. So sometimes it will lead crash, right? So the second reason is the network request speed will change if you switch between states, between Wi-Fi to cellular. It will take longer, basically. So why the system events is useful, I'm going to give you another example. And that's the final story I'm going to talk about for the mobile first. So let's say you are a user. You can upload a profile image. So this customer has a problem. His profile image was eaten by the app. and he doesn't know why. So let's investigate. So he uploaded this, and it ends up those eyes are missing and also some other parts. So let's get a repro for that user experience. So the user starts with a couple clicks to upload the image. And then the uploading request getting fired, and it takes this long. But if you notice, there is another event happen in the middle. So that's the system events we just introduced. So what does that mean? So this one is interfering with your network request, or it's interrupting with that. So there are definitely something happen, and your developer needs to take action to fix some wrong logic or incomplete logic in your service, or they should handle nicely in the app. All right, so that's all the story I talked for the mobile-first company, and I would like to summarize that. So basically, mobile-first company, they like AppDynamics because there are 3 points. We can help them easily to identify the problem, and also we can take them all the way from front end to the back end. And third point is we add more events, including UI events and system events, to help you to do the troubleshooting with the power of the business transaction and the BT. So it's really a powerful tool. So next, please don't leave. I'm going to introduce the product manager in our team, and he's going to talk about the mobile future for you guys. Let's welcome him.
Thank you, Hao. Somebody once said that nobody knows future except a product manager, right? Today, I'll be talking about what are some of the things that we have cooking in the box for you guys to come up even after what Hao talked about, some amazing offering. But before I go into that, I want to sort of summarize the day for you guys today. One of the biggest announcements for today's keynote was Business IQ. And there was a lot of events in the Business IQ. You can build all these funnels. You can come up with interesting customization for what you are looking for your specific use cases. But an interesting part in there is you need to have that end user monitoring in place in order to be able to tell what user was doing and grab all those data points. So whether it's browser, whether it's mobile or incoming, whether it's IoT, we should be able to capture all of the data to really build the business funnels and connect it to the performance. Well, with that, let's first jump into the Business IQ. I've sort of already talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to cover this topic specifically for mobile. And when I'm covering this topic, there are a lot of variations in user experiences. There are millions of users that are using your mobile application every day. And you might have different businesses. One of your business might be a banking application. You may have an e-commerce application. You may have a gaming application. And because of that, you'll have different goals. One of the goals would be to generate more revenues, or your goal could be to bring in more engagement. Your goal could also be to just convert more users to purchases, right? But as you define these goals, it's important to understand how these goals are connecting to the performance. So if there's a 10% drop-off from point A to point B, what is really causing that drop-off? Is it the performance of the application? Is it the slow network transactions? Is it the 500 errors? Or is it something on the front-end side, like crashes or something like that? Right? So you need to relate these business transactions, business awareness, to your application transactions. And then you must be using some of the mobile monitoring tools, but more in the sense of a marketing tool, right, where you can build funnels out of it. And there was an example in the keynote. But imagine an application, and this is an application. This is an e-commerce application that Joe is using. So Joe goes on to the main page, launches the application, selects some item, goes to the checkout screen, puts in the payment details, and then purchases the item. Throughout this flow, well, so far, AppDynamics has been capturing the data under the hood and saying, what is really code doing? We're watching every single line of the code that's executing on the mobile, on the backend, on your application servers, on your database. We are bringing that information. But now we are saying, we are not only watching what your code is doing, we are watching what your users are doing, and we'll connect these two dots. And in doing that, you need to build the funnels. So here's an example. I want to switch gears a little bit and move away from business IQ. I guess you guys have enough of business IQ for today. And this is a fancy marketing term. I want to move on to crashes. This is one of the single most reasons we have seen people look for monitoring tools or understanding what's going on their application. Because when you go to the App Store, one of the biggest complaints you would see is that the application is crashing. And I have like 50 applications on my mobile device. And I've never seen any application that has not crashed on me, including Facebook, including Google, including Gmail and everything, right? So every application crashes. There may be some application that crashes more often than the other ones. But when you get to these crashes, one important thing to understand is we don't lose the sight of customer. And this is what happened to me in my previous company, and I worked for an e-commerce company. That's why all my examples are e-commerce examples. So I worked at this company. I used to be an engineer at a time, and my manager or product manager would come to me and say, hey, look, we are monitoring this something in Mixpanel, and in Mixpanel, I'm seeing that a lot of people are dropping off. Turns out that people are commenting on App Store that the application is crashing. You need to fix this as soon as possible. These are our most valuable members. I would go into the code. Because I have the crash monitoring tools, I would look at the line of code that's crashing. And I would look at that line of the code, but it doesn't make sense. Like it's just working fine. And I don't see anything wrong around that. So then I would go to the mobile application, and I would go through the whole flow. I'll select an item, put it into the cart, purchase that item. And when I've finished the whole flow, and the application hasn't crashed for me. So I would go back to my product manager, and I would say, not happening for me, can't reproduce, must be a specific user. And my manager would be like, how's that possible? And then one crash will turn into 1,000 crashes. 1,000 crashes will come into 100,000 crashes until my CEO would come and say, you're fired if you don't fix this today, right? So the reason I'm telling that story is you need to have that context of what user was doing rather than just having a stack trace of the code, right? So we need to, and when we have these stack traces, there's hundreds of lines of codes in there. And as an engineer, I loved watching stack traces, but I couldn't care less about them if somebody could tell me which part of the stack trace has problem, right? So we have come up with an algorithm that will automatically highlight the part of the stack trace that is important to you. While we'll keep all the other data for you to look at, you'll be able to tell where you should focus your energy on, just a few lines of code, right? I'll show a screenshot for that. The other thing is important is, I was talking about earlier, is the user flow. And how went over it a little bit. When you look at a crash, you should have an ability to see exactly the steps that user took. And not just the steps that user took, along with those steps, how was my code behaving at the same time, right? A crash could come from a backend call, and that backend call might have returned a bad response, and your mobile application, your Objective-C code, Swift code, or Java code didn't understand that response, and it crashed. Right? But with this solution, you should be able to connect these dots from the crash to the stack trace, to what user did, to the backend, on what backend line of code returned that response and what the response should have been, right? So that's powerful. The other part that's important is you need to manage these crashes. While most of these crashes are important, there are only a few that impacts the users the most. So I've seen, when I usually look at the number of crashes in an application, there'll be top 3 ones that are impacting like 100,000 users out of 1 million or 100 million users. And then there'll be a few that would impact 50,000 users. And then there's a long tail of all the ones that are like 1 or 2 people affected or 10 people affected. While those crashes are important, it's probably not the best use of your time in looking at those crashes. And because it's not best use of your time, you should have an ability to manage those crashes to say, turn off these crashes. I don't want to look at in my dashboard anymore. You can obviously turn them back on later, but you want to just hide them and focus your energy in one place. And then finally, this is all great. There's so much information in the dashboard, and you should come look at it, and we would be more than excited to see your engagement in our dashboards. But we wouldn't be doing our job if we asked you to come to our dashboard every time to see what's going on. Right? So you want to send these alerts. And these alerts should tell you when you should come to our dashboard. And they should tell you that there is a problem and you should come. So not only for when a new crash arrives, but also when your crash rate deviates significantly from normal. So if let's say your crash rate is usually 0.5% of the total app opens in your mobile application. If it goes to 0.6% or 0.51%, it's fine. Like there's always variations based on how much that particular day matters and so on. But if it goes to 1%, you should be notified. So you want to be able to do that. Here's a screenshot. It's hard to see, but from where you're sitting, I think you can easily tell that there is part of the section that are important in the stack trace. Those are highlighted in blue. And then there are parts that are not as important, and they are in the plain text, right? And there is the view session button, so you can click that button, you can go back, and you'll see exactly what user did in your application. Let's move on. Scorecard. This is something I like a lot. When I see a game, I was watching this MLB World Series, the last game, if you remember. The score was at the 9th inning, was 7-7, or 6-6, I think. But if there was no score, I wouldn't be able to tell what the state of the game was. Right? That score is super important. If I give you all the data that we are capturing and say, how's your application doing? You're like, let me go around and let me check it out. Right? You will go into network requests, you'll go into crashes, you'll go into a bunch of other places and say, yeah, it's working fine or it's not working fine. But what if I can give you a quick scorecard, and from where you are sitting, you are able to tell whether the application is normal or not? Right? That would be a lot more powerful. It will save you time, and you can focus your energy on the features. So you need to have that holistic view of your application. You need to have a holistic view of key performance indicators. And these key performance indicators would include crashes. It would include network latencies, how slow your network responses were from backend. So you can just jump the ball over to the backend and say, it's your problem, not my problem. You need to know the HTTP errors, and you need to know the health rule violations. So you can set up rules around your whole monitoring and say, alert me anytime this thing happens, and we'll alert you. Right? All right. So here's a quick view of the scorecard. From where you are sitting, I guess you can easily tell that this application is normal. You see that check mark? It's all fine. There's another view that I have where when you are looking all of your applications together, you can look at that second view. All right. In the interest of time, the other thing that we hear a lot about, or at least I hear as a product manager in customer meetings, is this world which is not only restricted to few devices now. I talked about how the iPhones or smartphones were the big innovation of the last decade. People are really moving on to using more devices, right? It was computer, It was printer, it was computer, it's mobile devices, but there are more devices out there. And a lot of those devices are not using native platforms. They're not using native Android, they're not using native iOS. So you want to be able to support platform agnostic applications, applications that are hybrid applications. Some of it is built with the web technologies, the other is built with C#, and it also has a code that has Java in it or C in it. Right? We're able to collect all of this data in the single application and give that the same views that you saw earlier to you. And then finally, you should have an easy way to instrument your application. Some of you may have already gone through this process. But if it's taking you more than a minute to instrument an application, we're taking too much time out of your feature development where you could be doing more important stuff. Right. So we want to be able to do that in future. We want to tell you, don't worry about instrumentation. There's this one step, just click this link and you're fine. Right? So we want to be able to do that. With that, we can jump into questions, and I'll hand it back to our Jonna, who can help bring in the mic to you guys.
Testing. Here you go.
Thank you. Very interested in the scorecard. I suppose a couple of things. One is you're capturing, you're doing a bit with user journeys. Can you identify the most popular journeys through an application as a loop back into your DevOps to know the most common path that a user takes through your application in a session, so you know where to target your testing? And then the other one was a really quick one, was just any plans for Windows Mobile?
Well, when I said devices, I didn't really mean Windows. I'm just kidding. To answer your first question, all of this data that you see in the sessions, the user journeys and so on, that's available to you as part of that business IQ thing in a raw format. So for different businesses, an optimal flow or a most common flow could look different. We can certainly do it for, let's say, one sort of application or two sort of applications. Or it would be more powerful if we gave you all of this data and said, define the query that you want, and that would be your most optimal flow. And then you can build reports out of it. So that's possible. That's possible through the business IQ. To answer your questions, there are no Windows support plans, at least this far. What I can tell you, though, is we do have plans to support C# and C as languages for devices. And I know a lot of the Windows is built on that, so we may be able to do some manual instrumentation at a later point.
Well, in the future, Microsoft is likely changing around Windows and Windows Mobile. So.
Microsoft bought quite a bit of companies to do Android and iOS development. Yeah.
Other questions? Anyone?
There's a question here, Fiona.
So basically, you mentioned hybrid applications. Is there any plan to support like PhoneGap in the future that would really build the hybrid applications?
Yeah, so when I say hybrid applications, PhoneGap is part of it, Cordova is part of it. There are a whole bunch of other JavaScript frameworks. We are recently hearing about Ionic. That's becoming more and more popular, and have partnership with IBM as well. So we are looking at that space, and we want to be able to do that.
Any other takers? All right.
All right.
All right.
I'm supposed to show you guys this slide. Submit your feedback if you have any. But thank you. You have three other opportunities to interact with us. Demo booths. Stop by if you have specific questions. You can also stop by another session that's on mobile best practices tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. And then we have a hands-on lab on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. where we'll actually walk you through how to instrument all of this and get the visibility right.
Yeah. So basically, our mobile leads will be there and also help you to walk through the whole features we have and also help you to set those up. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for coming.